Hey, MCE crew, financial Armageddon is probably right around the corner. So we need to talk about that today and talk about how it looks, what the ramifications will be, and how to survive it. Now, how to thrive it, not survive it. We don't want to be just mere survivors. We want to thrive these situations. And we want to always achieve or be on that road, that continual journey to financial independence. Now, if you are an athlete who's made millions of dollars and then pumped that over into some successful businesses like Magic Johnson, you have arrived. But the rest of us, financial independence may be an ongoing journey throughout our lives, especially when we look at the possibility of the United States dollar no longer being the world's reserve currency. It's going to make things economically interesting here in America and throughout the world. So let's get into it. We've got an article here. Zoltan Pozsar warns Russian sanctions threaten dollar's reserve status. Now, if the dollar was no longer the world's reserve currency, things are going to get really interesting here in America. Your life is going to become more complex. I always tell you, you need to worry about these financial issues, okay? This needs to be top of mind for you. You literally can no longer afford to say, oh, I got a broker handling that, or I max out my 401k. So what? Doesn't matter. You're going to need to do a lot more than that to build a firm financial foundation for the years to come. Now, I'm always talking about the fact that it is my belief, based on the profligate spending that the United States engages in, it is my belief that the dollar will lose reserve currency status by the early 2030s. Some people are saying 2027. Same general date range, okay? And when that happens, life in this country and throughout the world is going to change. Now, one of the things that we enjoy here in America by having the world's reserve currency, the dollar, one of the things that we enjoy is or are entitlement programs like Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. Now, if you are not yet of age to receive those types of social benefits, or if Medicaid is a needs-based program, it's for your medical care. If you're not at the point where you're receiving any of those, then you better understand that the future's looking mighty suspect as to whether or not you will get the full benefit of something like that, or if you'll get any of it at all. Now remember, Social Security is pretty much a Ponzi scheme. The United States government can break all kinds of rules that you must follow. Be that as it may, what's happening is when you go out and generate income through your job, through your business, you pay into the Social Security system. And that is not money that's put away for you. That is money that is used to pay current beneficiaries of those programs, okay? So we're not going to be able to afford that for too long after we lose reserve currency status, because those are very expensive programs. In fact, some estimates say that just those alone, they're called the unfunded liabilities, are north of $200 trillion in terms of the obligation, okay? So that's just astronomical. Another thing we're not going to be able to afford is all of these long and protracted military engagements, okay? We can rack up this debt and buy a lot of fancy equipment and then engage in empire. Now, we may not call Japan the 51st state, but we're there. We have military bases there that rival some cities here in America, okay? Same thing with Germany, okay? Now, World War II has been over for quite some time, and Germany's the richest nation in Europe, but we're still there, okay, protecting them. We're not going to be able to do that. We're not going to be able to project all of this military power around the world. Take a look at Great Britain. Now, they used to have the world's reserve currency in the British pound sterling, and they used to say that the sun never sets on the British Empire. And they said that because they were everywhere, okay, backed up by the British Royal Navy. But that the times have changed. They have contracted. They're pretty much back confined to the British Isles, and their military power has been greatly curtailed. That's going to happen here if we lose reserve currency status. Okay, we're going to see people learning more about foreign exchange. You saw the Russians in a previous video we did lining up at ATMs to get their money out in other currencies. These ATMs give out money in various currencies in certain places in Russia. We saw them lining up to say, I don't want rubles. I want, dollars. I want euros, or even the renminbi, the Chinese currency. Anything but rubles, because the ruble is under pressure right now due to the war going on between Russia and the Ukraine and the sanctions that have come on as a result. Now, right here, I'm going to link to a video. This video is not on my channel, but it's a video after you watch this one. You need to see this, because this video is showing you how one Russian family is going to survive the sanctions, how they're going to deal with it. Very instructive, and I'll give you a little preview. It's going to go into something that we talk about often here. All right, so let's talk about this. Now, one of the other reasons why we're coming into an era where these other countries are rethinking reliance on the dollar has to do with recent events in Eastern Europe, Russia versus the Ukraine. The way that we have weaponized the dollar and used sanctions against Russia, however you feel about it, whether you're pro or con, one thing we all must agree on is the fact that this move has caused other nations to take a look and say, do I really want to be as reliant on the dollar as I am now if the United States and the Western powers can basically control my foreign policy, the destiny of my nation, by basically cutting us off from, the global economy. While a huge blow for Russia's economy, Reuters' Mike Dolan wrote that the moves to cut off the Russian economy from the SWIFT electronic banking messaging system, the move quickly prompted questions about whether targeting reserve holdings as an act of economic warfare may prompt a rethink by reserve managers across the globe. So I'm going to link to this article. It's pretty lengthy, and it's worth every word of your time. The most surprising take comes from former New York Fed staffer, current repo expert, and Credit Suisse money market guru Zoltan Pozsar, who, on any other day, would be a stalwart advocate of the status quo, and who ominously said that the response to Russia may have set off a sequence of events that eventually leads to the demise of the dollar as a U.S. currency. Speaking to Bloomberg, Pozsar, who this weekend warned that the lockout of Russia from the global financial system could prompt central banks to aggressively pump liquidity to stabilize markets, said that wars tend to turn into major junctures for global currencies. And with Russia losing access to its foreign currency reserves, a message has been sent to all countries that they can't count on these money stashes to actually be theirs in the event of tension. Now, when you go to your bank, you expect to be able to withdraw funds. You don't expect for them to say, hey man, look, you did something that we really didn't care for. So we're going to hold on to this money for now until we sort this out. Take a look at the Russian oligarchs. There are several Russian oligarchs throughout the world right now who have had their yachts seized, okay, by France, Germany. United States is looking at taking possession of some of them. Now, if they can do that with no due process, pretty much, if they can just seize private properties of billionaires, oh, they can really come after you and your little Christmas club account down at First National, don't you think? Or your 401k, all right? So this is why we always talk about these issues and having some money. There's a difference between fiat currency and money, okay? Uh, Having some money like gold or silver, having ownership of your real estate and doing things with that real estate that insulates you from a lot of the price spikes that would come along with the demise of the dollar as the U.S. currency. Look, I know it's probably a lot of people might think that what I'm about to say is not feasible for them, and it might not be. But for those who may benefit, you need to start looking at land. Okay, again, the definition of wealth in this nation, the definition of financial independence, at least among this audience, has to change from one of, you know, Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, McMansions, red bottom shoes, that sort of thing, to real substantive wealth that is built on actual assets that have been considered assets for ages. Again, real estate, investment in companies, okay? Gold, silver, your own business, okay? Your own business is one hell of an asset. And if prosecuted correctly, it will be the best performing asset that you have. All right, so Pozsar goes on to say that this recognition, again, the recognition that, countries could be frozen out of their own assets if they, have a dispute of some sort with the Western powers especially, and all the Western powers use that dollar as a reserve currency. So he argues that recognition of that fact will encourage central banks to diversify away from the dollar, or to try to re-anchor their currencies to assets that are less susceptible to influence from U.S. or European governments. As such, recent tensions could usher in a new monetary order in which countries are far less interconnected through international bank accounts and reserves. Okay, so what could these countries invest in that they all recognize as having value and base their monetary systems on? Gold. Okay, that's been done many times in the past with currencies throughout history. Now, that ought to tell you, if we're going in this direction and these countries are starting to look at that, we've done video upon video about how central banks around the world are purchasing more gold, okay? And they may get into a point where they want to back a currency by gold, right? That should tell you that the price of gold probably is going to be heading north as more countries realize this and try to acquire more gold and base their currencies off of that. If a central bank is in a situation like this and the currency's under pressure, would it ever come to having to re-anchor your currency to something like gold? I think these are all questions that should be top of mind. This is the gentleman Pozsar speaking. So he goes on to say that I don't know. He says, he added, forgetting to mention Bitcoin and other cryptos, which an entire generation now view as gold. So the author is saying that. Pozsar didn't say anything about cryptos. He said gold. And I think Pozsar neglected to mention the cryptos because, again, in an economic warfare situation, you don't think that the United States has already demonstrated an ability to get into the blockchain and disrupt the flow of Bitcoin and to actually seize it. Okay, so we just talked about seizing yachts from Russian oligarchs. The United States has demonstrated the ability to do that with crypto. Colonial Pipeline, we've talked about it before. I don't know, this is Pozsar talking again. I don't know if it'll come to that, but if things get worse, you could basically re-anchor the ruble, Russia's currency, to a pile of gold because you need an anchor in situations like this. So again, we're seeing gold become, more attractive in as we move toward countries' realization that these things are happening. Okay, then we look at China. Okay, China is paying close attention to this because there may be a situation soon where China wants to go into Taiwan and retake that. Now, the United States has been around for about 240 some odd years. China and Russia are thousand-year-old, thousands of years old, collectively, in terms of their culture, in terms of the different philosophy they have, the disputes that they have. And really, at the end of the day, if China wants to go and retake Taiwan, I honestly don't think that we're in a position economically to challenge that, because I'm sure that President Xi is taking a look at what's happening in Russia, Ukraine, and he's going to be doing everything in his power to make sure it doesn't happen to him and China if they decide they want to go into Taiwan. Others also share this dismal view that Pozsar was sharing a few days ago. Former Societe Generale strategist Dylan Grice, who since founded Candlewood Capital, described the recent moves as a weaponization of money. You only get to play by that card one time, he tweeted. China will make it a priority to need no US dollars before going into Taiwan. It's a turning point in monetary history. All right, so we talked about how that looks over here. Just the unfunded liabilities are, going to just become a thing of the past eventually, not immediately. Now, again, what can you do about this? Well, the day after the dollar is no longer the reserve currency, the day after that happens, people are still going to need to eat, live in homes, drive cars, transact for all nature of good and services, okay? So that asset we talked about before, that business is still going to be vital. You're still going to need to purchase things. And as a business owner, you'll be in a position to do that. To me, that is the going to be one of the best places to be, as long as your business is well managed. It's something that is needed in society. Now, there may not be much of a market immediately thereafter for superfluous luxury goods. Like my wife bought this thing that you hang on the wall and it says something like, our home, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That kind of crap is not going to be in, you're going to prioritize. If you don't have a whole bunch of money because your country just lost its reserve currency status, you're certainly going to prioritize necessities over luxuries. Okay. And then in that luxury camp, luxury might be a steak as opposed to chicken. Okay. That sort of thing. So the little superfluous accoutrements of American life are going to take a hit. All right. So you need to be in a business that is focused on trying to help people through, understand and build wealth, like the financial services industry. You want more information about that? mcenow.com. Or a business that, is producing something that is needed. Maybe you want a business that is helping people acquire assets like real estate. Okay. All things to think about, guys. But the amount of spending and the weaponization of the dollar are going to conspire to end the dollar's reign as the reserve currency. And when that happens, your life is going to change. Now, if you prepare, you'll be fine. But there are going to be many most people are not going to watch this video and are not going to be prepared. And it's going to hit them like a whirlwind. Can you imagine a retiree who is not absorbing this type of information and then gets hit with a reduction in their Social Security and an increase in the price of their Medicare coverage? Okay. It's going to be tough. All right, guys. So we'll talk more about it. The world is changing. I'll talk to you soon. To learn more about how you can achieve financial independence, check out these videos we recently posted on the Money Changes Everything channel.